Welcome to the Data Coffee Break podcast. I'm Mark.
And I'm Christian.
If you are passionate about data like us, take a seat, relax, and join us to our coffee break where we discuss all things data.
And remember, there are no filters, no PR.
It's just a real life experience. So let's begin. Thank you again, Ivan, to join us today.
Thanks both of you for inviting me. It's always really fun to be here.
To share your wisdom. And we know that after that, we're going to have a nice dinner all together.
That's the only reason I come, actually.
So, I think for last year we got right data mesh. I think that's...
Okay, let me go back to the list.
Not justifying ourselves, but just to give it a bit of credit. We recorded that episode in December before the Gen AI.
The big boom.
Yeah, big boom. Yeah, we recorded in December and we released it early January.
Yeah.
So last year let's speak very quickly about what we discussed last year. So we spoke about data mesh and data fabric.
Yeah, that happened.
In particular, data mesh. I heard much more data mesh than data fabric on my side. Real-time analytics. I see, yes, but maybe not as much as I hoped. So, thumbs down, clearly. Data as a service.
Yeah, didn't happen.
Yeah, didn't happen. Semantic layer and matrix layer. That was my take. And I'm so disappointed this didn't happen.
No. I think Microsoft released something on semantic layer as part of their fabric.
Yeah, Microsoft. DBT is pushing a lot in that.
DBT still, yeah.
NLP, well, in some aspect, yes. With Gen AI, let's say.
It's the interesting part. Can we still even talk about NLP now?
Yeah.
It's all just a large language model.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm going to go quickly through all the ones. So data contract, tiny ML and small data, BI, that we actually dismiss as not being one. It's just one we thought, we read about it, but we thought is actually not that much. Then data observability, edge computing, and augmented analytics.
Data observability, it was, for sure.
Yeah. But I would say as an overall, everything was about LLM, generative AI, and it was difficult to get out of, to see anything else apart from that.
Yeah.
Because it was such a massive topic everywhere, which is good, and for sure we're going to speak about that now, right?
Yeah.
So that was 2023. All right. So what I propose to you is we can review some topics. Been reading a lot of articles lately around all the topics and trends happening, and maybe debate as we did last year what we think are being genuinely important trends for the years and what can be dismissed actually as some of them. And I want to bring one, which is my personal pick to start, is dropping on the generative AI, obviously, as we say. We had some sparkles about generative AI. This was a massive marketing win all across the board. But I think it needs to deliver value. I haven't seen substantial, real value delivered for enterprise or even, final customers maybe. But there is an interesting thing. 80% of respondents of the AWS survey said that they believe it will be transformative or in their organization. But only 6% companies in this AWS survey had any production application of generative AI. So that's from a kind of enterprise perspective, company perspective. Thoughts?
I think you see that across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone is experimenting or piloting, but you don't see much in production. It's very few.
I kind of feel like we're going from the front end to the back end slowly.
Oh, yeah.
ChatGPT gets released, it creates this whole buzz about Gen AI and its potential, and everybody's thinking, okay, this is going to change the way that people do their day-to-day job. Immediately, products start applying Gen AI into part of the solution. And you see pretty much every product out there now has some level of Gen AI included, front-end products. But still, trying to figure out what is the best way to approach this, considering the limitations of Gen AI, when it actually hasn't really delivered on the promises that we were expecting of. Now, as it starts moving more and more to the back end, that's when I think the really transformative power might come from, whilst we all just imagine it to be in the front end. So yeah, I feel like it really, like, the buzz energy came, like, really exploded. It hasn't delivered value, or worse, people lost a little bit of their trust in it, considering the results they were getting out of it, the limitations that they're starting to find, which are very logical limitations. But if you imagine a human being able to very easily answer a question, and then Gen AI finding it incapable to deliver, or even worse, creating fake information that delivered that reduced the amount of front-end users' trust in Gen AI. But now when it starts building into sort of the data pipeline and the ML pipeline itself, then that will be a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things there is that it's so new, right?
Yeah.
It's so new that I'm pretty sure the way that we were doing things in 2023 is going to be very different in 2024. You're not like, you see some techniques, for example, which included sometimes having like a response of the prompt check done by a different LLM. So say, for example, you have a large language model like GPT, give it your response, and then you put another large language model as Gemini to double check the response. Yeah. But I mean, that sounds okay. But if you are like a decision maker of a big corporation, will you actually put something in production that sounds like that? Like, well, it doesn't sound bad, but is it proven? Do we have references? Yeah. So yeah, I think the first adopter, the early adopters, are going to be a bit more predominant this year still. But I have a question for you, because you mentioned their fake information, which I guess you mentioned their hallucinations. Mm-hmm. Do you think hallucination is a bug?
I think it's just because of what you provide as data overall. I would say, like, if tailored, not tailored, but like specific data that relate to the question, the prompt you provide.
That's a super interesting question, actually, because it is a lot of these things. Yeah, it depends on the final outcome that we want. I actually enjoy that it hallucinates, because a lot of what I use it for is to produce. I actually wanted to produce fake data for me, because a lot of the use cases that I have for it, I specifically do not want it to construct things that already exist. I wanted to pick up, okay, these are the characteristics of the data I want. I would like you to produce characteristics that have these particular features I would like you to produce data that has these particular features to it, but I don't want it to be real data. I want it to hallucinate data for me. Yeah. So that's the outcome that I want. That's the outcome that most people want. That's an interesting.
I think that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if it is what you want, then it can't be a bug, but it is a feature that it allows me to do that. Now, do I know when it's doing that when I'm not asking it? I think that's the hard part.
That's the hard part.
Like especially now when people are asking for information and they want references out of it, and it's able to imagine the information and the references, and there's no real fact checking happening. It's the whole paradox of automation, right? Mm-hmm. Because we are able to access this information and the references so fast. If the information is fake, the impact it's gonna have is much wider, because you're making decisions based out of fake information without knowing that it's fake information.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So I think, just because I know that you want to move us forward, right? On that point,
hurry up.
Yeah. I think, because I just to get my 2 cents there, is that I think hallucination is a feature, and this year will be the year that people will understand that is a feature. Yeah. Like, you need to know how to turn on and off. Yeah. It's still not ready, some of this, and that's why these techniques are going to happen. So, and in order to happen, data needs to come to AI. So I think this is the year that you will see data really meeting AI in the middle. I'm talking about your data or enterprise data.
So second one, I will kind of bring the topic of more kind of purpose-built, smaller foundation model or models. And we touch as well a little bit on that in our last episode, when it comes to having a model very good and very performant, very specialized when it comes to
coding. There are other ones that are pretty good at imaging, like with generating images.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to keep seeing that trend, right?
I do think it makes sense to start looking at these models not as a one size fits all.
Oh yeah.
But models are for particular purposes. Are we already at the right time for that to happen? I'm not sure.
Not sure.
I actually don't know if it's the same thing with like a few years ago, the conversation about going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger data.
Yeah.
Now
the big data.
It took a long time for people to actually recognize tiny data and the importance of actually sometimes reducing the scope of things.
Absolutely.
I think we're still on the excitement curve that's going to lead to larger and larger language models before we start looking at, and most organizations don't have the capacity yet to even start thinking about their own little models for their own particular purposes.
So I think we agreed that even though maybe the first steps towards that will start happening, it's not going to be a trend for this year.
I think so many of these things about Gen AI we're so early, and like there's so much optimism that we want all these things to happen right away. But I think they'll take a little bit longer than, I don't know. I might be wrong. I don't think that there's a technology that's going to prevent us from getting there. Mm-hmm. It's the human aspect of people being ready for that.
And the more that I see, like for example, you see models like GPT or Gemini, they are going towards being multimodal. As much as they can, right? Like multimodal, meaning that they can understand images, sound, a video, what's going on in a video. So you don't see from these massive models like a trend to start fragmenting. One thing that I've seen, though, is the one per use case.
Okay.
So I've seen already that there are language models for medical purposes.
Obviously.
Right? That they have not. Maybe that could be something that start happening. Maybe. Like for a very specific use case. Yeah. I don't know if what's behind the code assistants. Yes, I mean, they're based on GPT or they're based on Gemini, but are they different? Like, they're specific models? Training specific for code completion?
What kind of training behind it was provided? And
Yeah, because MedLM from Google, it's a very specific training on medical literature. But I don't know, for example, that's another kind of like angle to it, right? You have a very specific use case.
Okay, yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting because, especially with things like health, you do want to have you want to have so much control over the data that's being fed. You do not want it to hallucinate if you're talking about health. But also we know that health is a very slow-moving industry. So to adopt these kind of technologies, it takes a while.
And there is regulations all over the place. Like they cannot be used for diagnosing. They cannot be used for...
All right. So speaking about regulation, that brings us to
such a great pivot.
Yeah, such a great pivot. I love it. We obviously heard the new AI Act from the European Union. I think it's a recognition of lawmakers in this case, that they understood that they missed the train when it came to internet, right? And they realized that if they don't tailor regulation to make it protect people, but also like make it obviously making sure like it doesn't go out of control when it comes to AI and all the implication it comes around, they will be again behind. Obviously, the other aspect is, and we started to hear about that the last few weeks, it's kind of appeared, I think a month ago or 2 months ago, is like this being scared of over-regulated a new industry when you need innovation.
I would say, I don't even know if we can consider that as a trend or just something that needs to happen. Yeah. Because we've seen with technology...
Needs to happen, yes, but we've seen in the past when it didn't happen. Yeah.
And actually it's been a common occurrence over the past decade that technology moves faster than lawmakers can. Not just the internet, but everything. Every development that we've had in technology in the last decade has had that. But AI has such a high implication of risk. The capacity of doing misinformation at scale, it's so high that it needs to be regulated.
Exactly. And that's going to be a tough one because a lot of this is open source, right? So you have, for example, Anthropic or releasing the large language model. I'm not saying there is anything wrong with it, right? Or you have Llama from Meta, but tomorrow you may have Mistral 2.0. Like, how are they going to keep the pace with all the different things that are actually happening? Like, it's interesting how they're going to. I feel like someone is going to screw it up. I hope not. That is going to force the legislation to happen, if you know what I mean.
Oh, interesting.
I think image generation is the big one.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the least impactful ones in the big scheme of things, of all the less good outcomes that AI can bring, but it's the biggest one that things like deep fakes can start affecting people's life right away. And actually doing some really nasty things. Like, there has been usage of these large the image generation models to create illegal content that we know shouldn't exist, but it is possible to manipulate the prompts to deliver it.
In a year where 4 billion people are going to some sort of general elections, this is a major risk.
Exactly, politics, yes.
But it's a bit off track from what you discussed, but still relevant in that aspect. All right, fourth trend. So it's kind of like we're stepping back a little bit from, we've been looking specifically at Gen AI and LLM overall. What do you think about the data science field? Do you think it's a field that was quite artisanal up to now? A lot of organizations were hiring data scientists. They were putting in place some interesting data product leveraging data science and things like that. But it's always been kind of a ad hoc project. I don't want to say ad hoc project, but like very specialized project, very small team, dedicated team. What do you think about like going to a trend where it's becoming more industrialized, which means bringing more tools when it comes to MLOps in that extent, making sure like it's more reliable, making sure it's more scalable, and being able to deliver much more when it comes to those one?
Well, I would say if anything, and again, we should definitely do a thing where we drink every time somebody says the word AI. But I think the benefit of the popularization of generative AI in day-to-day language is that it has clarified the value of ML. Because everybody's been talking about it for years, actually not delivering it on it at all. And I think, but also not worrying so much that we weren't delivering on it. Now that we've kind of seen in real life the impact that it can have, that AI in general can have, the importance of ML in general, I think has solidified in the brains of leaders.
100%. I think it's bringing the focus now to the data scientists, this AI movement. And I can tell you, like anecdotally, speaking for myself, especially on companies that they have a big legacy, you see them when they go into evaluate, can we use this new Gen AI? Can we use this new ChatGPT to do into our projects? Do you realize that they really don't need that? What they need is traditional forecasting techniques, XG clustering. That is not that they were not doing it before, but it's just bringing this back, the focus on it. And I think that trend that you mentioned there, like giving them more tools, I think it's going to happen because, sorry to say that, but these companies with the big legacy are the ones with the big pockets as well.
All right.
To really spend on that, right? Like so.
So do you mean up to now they've been just trying to test the water and quite cautious in their approach on those?
Well, not necessarily like testing. I mean, there is no way that a big corporation of whatever industry, they don't have a bunch of data scientists doing it, but definitely giving them more tools to perform better rather than just a workstation with a bunch of Jupyter notebooks, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right. Which is kind of like the way I see.
It's just like a kind of environment just to test things, but not to be able to scale things.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I don't know how to say this without...
be honest. Be open your heart.
Yeah, open your heart. I don't know if this is the best comparison, but sometimes I feel like when it comes to data scientists, it was like a data engineers. Data analyst. Sorry, air quoting. I'm air quoting here. Data analyst back 15 years ago, where a data analyst was a person using Excel spreadsheets, doing lots of macros, right?
Yeah.
Working only on their own workstation and their own laptop, doing things and presenting back to business, just something that they built on their own. I feel like for a lot of years, that's the way that the data scientist has been working. Not everywhere, of course, but I'm generalizing.
So we're moving from those analysts / scientists / analysts but that now have like more dedicated tools.
Yeah, exactly. What happened to data analysts? Well, you have tools like Tableau, like Power BI. You give them proper tools to really perform the jobs at scale, and you can see what happened, right? I think now if you give this to data scientists, like tools, maybe like not the same, I'm talking about drag and drop, but enterprise grade tools to do it at scale. I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm just saying like to give them at scale or more accessible. Sorry,
because the tools have been around for a few years now, but I've always had this feeling that their efforts weren't being seriously considered for the majority of corporations.
Because they were not considered as indispensable. Is it the right word?
Well, or maybe as enterprise-wide, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know how to say it. I think indispensable is a bit too harsh, but...
They were nice to have, basically.
Exactly.
And these projects exist in a vacuum. Like, when I was still very much talking with data analysts, I always felt that there was such a big separation between the data scientists and the actual business.
True.
The actual subject matter experts of the business. So a lot of these projects weren't delivering anything because a lot of them existed in this vacuum. They were a silo of data scientists talking to data scientists. Yeah. And I don't know, was there enough support from leaders to actually invest in making these projects more scalable, giving these data scientists the tools and the access to subject matter expertise to be able to deliver on these projects? I didn't really see in the market an excitement for that. Whilst now I think there might be. I think we might actually, this year has completely changed. It's all just politics at the end of the day. It's about leaders recognizing the importance of data science. And I think that will become more clear now. On the other hand, and this is something I actually want to ask you guys, do you think the opposite is going to happen with data analysts now?
He was going to say that.
Oh, you're going to say that? Yeah.
No, I was going into that.
Because I think that's what's going to happen. Data analysts are going to go down in the level of sort of importance that they have in the eyes of leaders.
In the eyes.
Not
commoditized.
Let's be clear, data analysts are still very much important. But they could be commoditized because there's now... I see this understanding now that they are becoming a little bit more dispensable in the sense of large language models being able to deliver the analysis for them. Which is a very interesting.
Very interesting. So I read it was more a headline a couple of days ago where it was more like data scientists are becoming less sexy. But to your point, yes, data analysts are becoming more commoditized, and we know their role, and we know that this can be potentially now replaced, automated to some aspects, potentially. So I kind of join your point on that.
It's the promise of NLP that never materialized that is a little bit materializing now. Like, it is true that you can get ChatGPT to do basic analysis of data, and that's interesting. It doesn't replace the job of a data analyst, but it does mean that in the eyes of leaders, they'll be like, okay, actually, I can ask these questions myself. And again, I don't think that is possible. I don't think that that's actually a replacement. It's more about that level of sponsorship that leadership gives to certain areas of the business. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. That's what allows them to have these tools available, to have the investment, to have headcount, to be able to deliver on these things. And I see I'm scared of like a reduction in the excitement for data analysis and for the democratization of data analytics with Tableau and Power BI being less and less important as we consume less and less. As there might be an idea that we will consume less and less dashboards and just consume more and more Gen AI.
More data as it is, right?
Fantastic. I love it. So I'm going to step back a little bit on your point of organizations and individual contributors, data analysts, data scientists, because I had like potentially a trend I want to bring to you. Or actually, I don't know if it's a trend or what should be the direction of that. But so we discussed about the fact that we see the role of data analysts, data scientists changing, at least in the vision of the organization, in the value they can bring, and so on. From your point of view, and you both like speaking with C-level executives, CDO, CDIO,
the C-suite.
The C-suite, anyway. Like, do you see a change in organization when it comes to the data team? And maybe bringing on a little bit further, those kind of individual data leaders, analytics leaders, or even potential AI leaders, those ones becoming a little bit less independent in the organization. Okay, let's tackle the first point. Do you see the structure of those data team in those changing?
The answer is no.
No what?
I haven't seen anything changing.
And do you think it's going to change?
I think the name is going to change, right? Like so far, data as a...
They're becoming more prominent in the organization for sure, right?
So far, yes. But so far, the word data has been the dominating one. Yeah. You see head of data, data analytics, CDO. You don't, chief data as in chief data officer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whether we're going to start seeing CDIO, chief data and like AI officer, maybe at some point it's going to happen, right? And I don't think it is, but I don't think that might change the overall structure. I think it's just going to be another into the
portfolio
and data and AI. So you know what I mean.
As we see a lot in consulting companies, right?
Yeah, data
like head of delivery, data and AI,
data,
like that.
But not like AI on its own. Maybe it will happen depending on the industry, right? I can see more, for example, media, telcos. Yeah, the need of a sole branch of AI because of what it entails. But I'm just an example, right? But not. I haven't seen it. Whether is that going to happen? Probably. That would be my word. But I do believe that it's going to be more like an added to data and AI.
Okay,
I would agree. I think it's way too early days to start seeing these reshufflings happening. Yeah. I was at the IT symposium in November, and obviously the majority of the conversations was around that
in
Gartner, and it is fascinating how everyone was just thirsty for guidance on exactly this, on like how do we actually do this organizationally? How do we think about AI in general? Obviously, we're going to have people to have to think about it, and how do we put these people in? Now, I would say it's likely that the teams will shuffle just a little bit as as data in its own becomes data and analytics as a tool for the organization becomes less sexy, and AI becomes more sexy. That's where the big investment, the big headcounts are going to come from. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you; these will just be branches of the same arm of the organization. What they're delivering is not that different. It's processes. Now, will that be part of things like operations as well? AI will be a big consideration for operations teams as well. How do they use AI to support the day-to-day business? But then again, all of this, I'm with you. I think it would just fall under the umbrella of data and AI.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Great. Next topic. I want to bring back for our audience of individual contributors who are like working with data day in and out. What should be the technologies? So it can be like name of potential companies, obviously, or potentially new skills they should develop in the year. A part of it can be around database. A part of it can be around tools, and we spoke about like tools, for example, for MLOps, but other things. Any of those who come to mind that can be relevant?
I think now it's if people were not doing their development in Python, I'm pretty sure that this will actually move everyone to it. like stuff. I'm talking about. I mean, I'm just trying to put my myself in the shoes of a data scientist, right? So you still have scientists doing things on R, right? We see less and less R, like as an R studio, because of Spark and Python Spark. But this will, I think, is going to be the end of it. I do think that it will put more stress into it will put more emphasis into the SQL side of things. So because vector databases,
I was going to bring this topic. Great.
Yeah. I mean, they will still work in SQL using SQL, right? Like so the vector side, or if you don't want to go that way, that's why I'm talking about Python. Like you have these vector databases like ChromaDB, Pinecone. They're Python, not exclusively, but predominantly, right? So a lot of people doing data engineering, data analysts, data scientists, they will need to get a bit more into the app world. Yeah, I think like even how do you build a simple text box with a button that you can showcase the responses of your.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, like I'm thinking about like an NVIDIA contributor that wants to really like
because
showcase.
It can like as a proof of concept for the team and for like internal stakeholders.
Would you go to the head of marketing with a Jupyter notebook and show them something there?
What is a Jupyter notebook?
Exactly, right? Exactly, right? Like also like your development interface, right? Like no, you want to show them, hey, look, I have this little text box with this little button that says, predict. Here's the example.
So to your point, I think we have Snowflake with Streamlit, who has an edge, right, in terms of capabilities to deliver something like that for those data scientists and analysts.
Yeah, as a framework. But yeah, for example, Snowflake notebooks. You can use Streamlit there, right? Or Gradio, for those that are into open source. So if I just want to summarize and keep the rule of three, it's vector databases, and now adopt Python as a framework, and somehow have some app sense, map knowledge, or basics on it, or fundamentals. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, a data scientist and data engineer are not going to build an app for mass distribution, right? But
yeah, they will have like a full stack engineers for that, for example.
Yeah, full stack, but the same way that full stack engineers understand about document databases or whether they're not experts on SQL, I think it's kind of like the same kind of thing.
All right, I'm going to drop the mic on my side. And any other trends you see in the coming year, in this 2024 year?
Observability.
What kind of observability?
Data observability, and then now I can bet here that it's going to be renamed to AI observability or something like that, just to make it more, as in observability of the models or something, right? But it's still observability.
Yeah, it's likely that there's going to be two pipelines: there's the data observability and the ML observability happening simultaneous. Yeah.
But if you have data, you need to. There is no way, right?
You need to see it. You need to watch it. You need to observe it.
Yeah. The first thing people will ask is like, okay, what about monitoring?
Yeah,
monitoring, right? Like.
So it's monitoring of the accuracy of your model. Is it monitoring
contingency with the model? Sometimes, as in the model will start doing things that you consider offending. Not talking about like in the literal world of offending, right? But if it's drifting, how many data, where is it actually going through all the way down, right? Is it coming from an Excel spreadsheet? Yeah. My prompt engineering, or even the data, right? Like this applies for data. And I'm not saying that observability is a trend for data warehouse, because it's something that is happening anyway, right? Yeah. I just think like it's going to permeate all the way to ML. And I know that we don't want to talk about AI only, but I just think that observability I think governance will still consider an old term sooner or later, and it will evolve to observability.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So like observability is going to consider governance as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
I can't comment too much on that. I mean, I work on a company doing data observability.
Now you know how I feel every time we talk about data and AI like that.
Which hasn't stopped you yet.
Yeah.
The nice part is I knew I made the right choice to move in a company doing that.
Yeah. I think it's going to be needed, right? Like, for example, in your company, I'm pretty sure that some sort of monitoring, reporting observability is needed, right? Like,
it's interesting, and I like the way that you put it, that we're going from governance to observability. Because governance, in essence, it's almost like a static term. You create your models of governance and you trust them. But I think clearly that's not enough. You need to actually monitor, register, observe it at different moments of the pipeline where things are. I think it makes a lot of sense to think about it like that. And definitely as it comes with all these things, the importance of data becoming more and more solidified and more solidified, the importance of the quality of the data. I think, again, this year has become quite clear that old concept of bad data in, bad data out, or bad analysis out, I think we all already knew this, but I think this year is becoming very, very clear how critical that is and how we stop that. We observe it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Speaking with some of my prospect and clients, this is an angle they're coming with. We're considering to get like more AI projects, projects that require like accurate data, and they say like we can't start that without having the right data. We can't start that without having the right checks, without being sure that when we're going to deliver that for users, internals or clients, we can provide a kind of a SLA. I don't know if SLA is the right word for that. It's not really the correct one, but like kind of a level of accuracy, a level of trustworthiness of the data and what potentially an AI model is going to bring down. All right. On your side, Ivan, do you have any maybe trends that you're guessing for the year?
So my view is very much what I was talking about at the beginning. All the usage that we're getting on a day-to-day basis, interacting with a large language model, is very direct. We're prompting. That's why the prompt engineer need came from. But I'm hoping that as we move to more mature usage of Gen AI, the prompt will not... The end users submitting the prompt will be less and less important because the parameters of the prompt will be already as part of the product and part of the application.
Yes.
So the prompt engineering will just be done as you are producing the product that interacts with the user and with the Gen AI, with the large language model.
That's what we hope. Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be, I don't want the end user to have to do prompt engineering. That doesn't make any sense as a mature usage of.
No. But I mean, like last year when you had, let's just think about marketing agency. Mm-hmm. You have two marketing agencies competing with each other. Both of them are using the exact same large language model. Let's just say GPT for the sake of argument here. The person who is going to produce the best outcome depends on the person that knows how to build the prompt.
Exactly.
Between those two. Yeah. Right? And that's where it became like, oh, okay, so this person knows better how to do that. But again, to your point, I agree with you, like, Ivan, when you say, like, yeah, but I mean, 2024, we should expect now that the end user is guided.
And this shouldn't require engineering degree. This is like training the user, indicating, like helping the user to know or to build this kind of prompt.
The same way that now everyone, I would want to believe that everyone in the corporate world knows how to use Excel spreadsheets.
Mm-hmm. Not everyone.
That took a while, yeah. But now people kind of know how to use it, right? Or read it.
Yeah. But also the products around it, I just expect the products to do that work.
Yeah.
Like I expect a lot of the applications of this are actually not going to be prompt based. I mean, they're still going to be prompt based, but the end user does not see the prompt at all.
Yeah.
The end user might ask for a specific thing, but the prompt itself exists within the product and is a product that connects to the LLM to bring that information back and apply it. And you'll be the context that we now have to apply in the prompt will already be pre-applied.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was like fascinating conversation. And I think we mainly debated rather than that predicted trends in this episode.
That's what we do. We debate.
Well, yes. Thank you very much, Ivan.
Thank you.
Yet again, another year. All the best for 2024. for you. And with that,
have a good day, everyone, and
see you next year.
See ya. Thanks for listening to this episode. This podcast represents our views and not the ones of our employers.
Our mission at the Data Coffee Break podcast is to inform you and help you grow in this always changing data field.
Follow us and get into the conversation with the community on our LinkedIn page and Instagram.
See you next Tuesday, and until then, keep your data caffeinated.